We use AI a lot in our business. It's like a graduate from university. They have got all the knowledge that they absolutely need, but they have zero experience. And if you don't take the time to train them, to explain what you need in terms of outcomes, to actually show them the context, then they might be the smartest university student there was, but it doesn't mean they're going to be good at doing the job.
So if I just go from the high level, we allow you connect all your data to any of the popular AIs out there. And then it's incredible. You're only limited by your imagination. Now you can make them real thinking partners. You can ask for insights in your business. You can generate reports, stuff we can't even imagine.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor, and I'm passionate about EOS and about helping business owners lead a better life by creating a better business. I'm also very, very passionate about tech and AI and how it can actually help us in creating a better business that creates that better life. And so today I'm super excited to have some guests who have taken a business from a small business into a very, very large software business that ended up being worth over 40 million, I believe. They got very, very passionate about the EOS process after reading the Traction book and starting to bring it into their business. And then they brought an EOS implementer in and really took that business to the next level of scale. And from there, they sold the business or sold out of the business in part and still shareholders in it. But they took all the knowledge that they had and that passion for EOS and the passion for software and developed an EOS software platform called Success. So today they're going to be talking about what took them on that journey, how they got to where they got to, what they learned from implementing EOS in their business, and what effect that had on the way that they developed this software, which is absolutely EOS pure. So please welcome to the show, Peter and Philipp from Success.co. Welcome to the show, Peter and Philipp. It's wonderful to have you here.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, indeed. Great to be here.
Yeah. Hey, look, we've been talking about doing this for a while, and I'm really very grateful for giving up your time, particularly as I know you're in a different time zone to me. I wanted to get you on the show because I know that you guys are absolutely passionate about EOS and about software, and you've got your own software company. But I've also heard your story behind it all, and so I really wanted to hear have the listeners hear that story. Would you mind sharing with me, how you got to be to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I'll do the story. Philip and I built a pretty big software company. We bootstrapped to 36 million, and then we raised money and made it much bigger again. But if we rewind back when we were about 70 people, I was the CEO. I'm also a passionate developer, software developer. I love customers and product. I would say the business was chaotic, to say the least. Everything was kind of haphazard. Everything was kind of like running the business part was secondary. We had a great product, and that's what we were focused on. So about 70 people, we were what I call a basket case. Somebody gave me the book Traction. I don't know how it ended up on my bookshelf, but one day I finally read it, and like so many people have had the exact same story, I was like, this is exactly what we need. Philip was working with me at the time, and Philip also fell in love with the book. We brought it to our leadership team, and a bit of a job to convince them, but once we got them on board, it was a beautiful thing. It really put manners on the business. I credit it as the thing that helped us get super organized and scale up and achieve everything we achieved.
Okay.
Now, I will say along the way, if I'm honest, every now and again, we tried the different software options, and being software developers ourselves, we kind of were frustrated that they didn't have APIs, and we found the interfaces a bit clunky and stuff, and we kind of ran away screaming several times. And every few months, every few years, we would go back and try them again and have the same experience. So I suppose that's what led us to where we are today. When I stepped out of teamwork after 17 years, a year and a half ago, I was meant to take a year off. And as usual, typical visionary stuff, I started dabbling. I found a really cool technology I wanted to do something with. And then I had the epiphany one day, why don't I go and bring great software to EOS? And combine my two passions, I suppose. And then maybe 2 months later, it hit me like a thunderbolt one day. Philip should be the CEO. He's awesome. And also, I've done my time in the front lines. I think Philip would be just the right guy to lead the charge in this. And I poached Philip from my own company because I'm still a shareholder at Teamwork. There's an interesting conversation with the now CEO. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey ever since, and we're enjoying every minute, right, Phil?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So teamwork. So how big did teamwork get in the end?
When I left, we were about 45 million and growing, and my co-founder's taken over. I'm still on the board. So I turn up once a quarter and I crack the whip and I give advice and hold them accountable, which is great. But I'm really enjoying this journey. This journey has been so much fun. I love this community, love the people, love the passion. I love that we're genuinely helping companies achieve things and that we can, combine our two passions, everything we've learned about EOS, everything we're still learning every single day, and that we can bring that to millions of people. It's very, very rewarding.
And so, Philip, what were you doing at Teamwork, and how did you feel when you got the tap on the shoulder from Peter?
Lot of roles, right? Teamwork. I started out actually as Peter's assistant back in 2017, but only a few months in, our head of HR left us. So Peter looked at me, he was like, I think I'm meant to be doing this now, but I don't have time for this. Go for it, right? And we looked at where we were. We hired about 40 people. We're bound to hire about 40 people that year. There wasn't much process, right, in our recruitment pipeline. So built a recruitment pipeline, got a little organized on the team. It was one of my first projects. And then we realized, I can't go back to being Peter's assistant any longer. So took over a lot of operational roles. That was the year when we started working with an EOS implementer, Dean in the UK. And I worked closely with Dean, just making it happen internally, right, within the business. We grew, doubled in team size the year after, went to 200 people in 2018, and then over 300 actually in 2019. Did everything on spreadsheet. It's originally, I had this tracker, this huge file where I was tracking like which team was doing L10s and had rocks and all this jazz. And it wasn't scalable at all when we rolled it out to the rest of the team. That's when we started looking at software and just weren't really impressed with the lack of integrations, the APIs, et cetera, that went our mobile apps, right, that we used every day. So we started building actually our own little solution for ourselves that we launched to the market, which got traction over the years, which, to be honest, was in the end, when we looked at it again in 2024, after Peter stepped down and found this great technology and wanted to combine, the passion around EOS and great tech, that was our proof of concepts. We're like, there's a market here for sure. And this little tool and everything we've learned about this space over the years has actually shown us that there's an opportunity here.
I just add, so we actually always had a great relationship with EOS worldwide, with Mark O'Donnell and Kelly and others. And when we built our little tool, like we were actually in conversation for a while whether they might actually adopt it. So we had that relationship already. So when we had the idea to build a software product, we reached out to Mark and Kelly. They were saying, actually, guys, your timing is perfect on this, because as you know, they decided to get out of the software business themselves and open floodgates for everyone.
And that was a very wise move, I believe, because I don't think that was their kind of core competency. But anyway, that's just my view as an implementer. Okay, so you decided to kind of build your own software. You came across some tools that you really wanted to use. But before we go into the software itself, what I'd really like to understand is, you read the Traction book. I always openly say that I tried to read Traction. I found it boring as batshit. And I had to actually get a grip first, because that was a story and I like business fables. And so it's like, oh, then I got really excited. Then I read the Traction book. But you obviously read the book. You must have tried to self-implement for a while. And then obviously you worked with Dean, who's an amazing implementer based over in the UK. What was the difference between, doing it yourself and reading the book and working with an implementer?
I think we actually did okay for the first 9 months, year, following L10s, starting to do the scorecard, all that. From what I remember, Philip, and you might have a different memory, I think we just got stuck with quarterlies. We just kind of were doing them. We were like, something doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel, everything else was super smooth. We could see the benefit immediately. The quarterlies just felt all wrong. Like setting rocks before you've kind of even discussed issues and all this. We're like, is this right? Everything was just kind of like scratching our head a bit. And after a few of them that just felt wrong, we were like, let's get help. Initially, it was just around the quarterlies, but then Dean was so good, we leaned on him more and more.
Yeah. I think for me, and that's what you're pointing to, Peter, right, is having an implementer helped us, me personally, right, to step out, actually partake in a meeting rather than facilitating a meeting. And we were, as you said, right, we were always wondering about the process rather than the conversation. Are we meant to do this here now? What are we supposed to do now? So, right, we always looked back at the structure of the meeting and the process of the meeting rather than really running an effective meeting. So having an implementer come in and facilitate, we didn't have to worry about running meeting, facilitating meeting. We just trusted the process. That was it. And we learned a lot more. I think, it just started to click, like how your VTO, how your 10-year target, your 3-year picture, your 1-year plan, your quarterly rocks, et cetera, how they all come, like link up with each other, right? And what you're doing, what you're deciding as a team this quarter has an impact, obviously, where you're headed, right? And it should be aligned to where you're headed. So it really clicked once we got Dean on board and helped us just learn so much more about EOS.
Do you know the other thing I'm just realizing is, I suppose it was myself and Philip kind of saying, this thing's amazing, everyone in leadership should be bought in. And they would say they're bought in, but then you're kind of back of your mind, like, they'd say certain things every now and then would make you think, are they really bought in? Did they really understand the scorecard chapter? And then it's one thing for two of us to be, advocating for it, but we thought, by bringing in someone who's not us, it'll hopefully get the entire team aligned, and they might be able to do a better job of presenting what this is all about and getting buy-in on the team. And I think that works beautifully.
I actually have a client in Auckland who's quite openly said to me, Deborah, you don't teach my team anything I don't know, but it comes from you and they believe you. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
honestly, we had the same situation. Yeah.
yeah, I'll take it. I felt a little bit offended, but it's like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. It's good. So you said that you tried some of the software, and obviously, being really open and honest, there are a number of softwares out there. Some are EOS approved, some of them aren't EOS approved. And, I always say that you've got to find the one that's right for you. But what was it that was so frustrating about the software from your point of view as an EOS company?
Well, first of all, we're fully licensed. We are in that category. What was really frustrating, the API I would go to straight away, right, is one of the big things. If you're a company, I always think if you're a company with more than 30 people, you're going to want to do clever things with APIs. You're going to want to pipe that in, pipe that out, update your scorecard, maybe even use some of the metrics to power other external things, right? And it's table stakes for any modern software. So it's kind of mind blowing to us that a lot of the softwares in this space in particular don't have a public API with docs, with examples and how to use it. So that's one. The other one that was screaming was mobile apps. So some of the platforms that didn't have mobile apps have caught up, but it took them years to get there, and you do want to be able to access all this information instantly on your phone. The next thing then is just what I described as a clunky interface. Like we're software guys, like, so we've kind of philosophy in our software of don't make me think. So when a user has to think, particularly our staff, when our staff come in and there's things that are confusing in the software and it takes a while to learn, that's not something we like. And then I remember us actually trying, I won't say the name of the product, but trying a popular product in this space. And I updated something on my screen and Philip updated something on his screen. And we're kind of left scratching. We're like, I don't see what you added. You don't see what I added. And that's when we realized, oh, you have to refresh. So we're like, oh my God, I can't believe modern software works like this. We're used to, in all these platforms like Google Docs and everything's just real time in any modern software. So I think it's a combination of those things. And those little things, they sound like little things, but there's 100 other paper cuts all around the place that just lead up to a frustrating experience, whether it's the printing experience or whatever. We just kept coming in up after roadblock in the software. Eventually, we're like, we would do a better job at this ourselves.
Yeah, for me, you're coming at it, honestly, from your core passion, right, is the tech behind it. The way I look at it really is just EOS purity, because what we realized is some of the other vendors, right, in the space started kind of deviating a little bit away from the terminology and added on stuff that is not in a traction book if you're self-implementing or an implement or teach, right? So we gave out the What the Heck is EOS book to every staff once they started at the company. It's kind of simple overview, right, of how EOS works from an employee's perspective and the questions you can bring to your L10s and your quarterlies and what are rocks and all this stuff. And if the language, for example, in the software that you're using isn't aligned to what people actually read there, it's already hard to change management component, right? Getting people to adopt scorecards, really bringing in the accountability around rocks, that's already hard. If that's not aligned with how you onboard people and the language that's being used in the resources and the stuff that you're teaching them around the EOS, I think that's a problem. So we looked at the space. We looked at all the Trustpilot reviews for, potential competitors, obviously, when we decided to do this. From a tech perspective, what are the feature sets? What are things like mobile apps, et cetera, that they didn't have, that people were really asking for over the years? And the feedback on the software, what can we do better there from a user experience point of view? But then also what became clear was there's definitely space here for an EOS pure software, because we saw all these other vendors kind of veering off into the wider market, which we get it, right? We get asked about this stuff all the time. Is like, can I rename my rocks to 90-day priorities or something like that, right? You got to be, it's the shiny object syndrome, right? There's millions of companies out there that might need an operating system internally and software to manage that, but we got to find a lane and a niche, and I think we've done that with the EOS Purity piece.
So just to be super clear, we decided from the early days, one of the things we're going to do is stick with EOS, purely EOS, and we're going to be led, our entire software is going to be led by implementers. So already we have an implementer panel that they're like, get rid of this, improve that, drop that, that's too complex. And they've really helped shape the product. So yeah, it's great.
And I know you were at the EOS conference just recently, and so I'm really keen to hear, what were people asking for? And yeah, I've got another question, but I'll start with that one. What were they asking for at the conference?
Primarily, how are you different? Right? That was my main question, because there's a lot of vendors in the space at the moment, as you said, Debra, as well, licensed or not licensed, that can do what you need, to do to run your level 10s and have your rocks and your VTO documented. That was the first thing. And that's what we lead with. Just what we talk about around EOS Purity. If you're really bought into the process, everything is templated in the software. When you come in, you don't have to set anything up. Your level 10 structure is already in there. Your quarterly is VTO exactly like it's being taught by an EOS implementer. The integrations, and then also the modern tech behind it that just syncs in real time, works offline. You've got mobile apps to complement it. That's honestly the one thing that we get asked a lot. Also, where is this headed? AI, what are you doing around AI? How can we adopt it? That was a big theme at the conference as well. Peter, did you hear anything else?
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. I suppose a lot of people that have been using other products for years have their frustrations. So they kind of go straight to, can you fix this? Can you fix that? Do you have this? Do you have that? And when we show them that we have these things, they're blown away. And then they start asking about price and stuff. We're also in every language. So I think we support something like 16 languages at the moment. We recently added French Canadian because somebody asked us for that. We support multiple currencies, including Australian dollar. You'll be glad to hear, Debra. So that's really important as well. I think we pride ourselves on good tech, but also a philosophy of don't make me think. And we really, really listen to the market, listen to our customers, and listen to implementers.
Beautiful. The question I was going to ask, the next question was, I have seen clients who have either built something themselves in Excel, and there's links through to various Word documents and all that kind of stuff. And as an implementer, it's actually quite tough for us because it's not something we can easily go into. I've seen people use ClickUp. I know Monday.com have launched their own EOS version and everything else. But what would you say? Because I had a client particularly who had built something within Excel, and every meeting we ran, I just found it really, really clunky. And I just said, look, will you please just try some software? Just try it for 60 days and see what happens. And they resisted for close to 12 months until one day I finally managed to get them to actually try it. And then once they tried it, they were like, oh my God, why didn't you give this to us earlier? And it's like, I've been trying. But it was like, even though their tools worked, it's just like, if you have to think too much, you can't be in the meeting, participating in the meeting, because you're focusing on how to make all this stuff work together. So yeah, what do you say to people who are thinking about doing themselves, or worse still, because the whole AI thing, we can build one in AI in a couple of weeks. Why would we pay you guys software fees?
We're having these conversations, which is, you can do that, absolutely. You could vibe code the app probably in like a month or so. But if you leave it sit there, who's gonna service it? Who's gonna maintain it? Who's gonna make it better, right? Who's gonna have the integrations, that you might need to sync your data from other tools in? Compliance is a big one at the moment, right? Like if you're in a certain industry, there's very sensitive data that you might bring in even on customers, right? How do you make sure this is compliant? So I think build versus buy, usually it's always the buy solution, because in the end, it's just cheaper if you look at the maintenance cost, right, of building your own thing and maintaining it. Back to the spreadsheets, that's what I did for years, right? I mean, I had our scorecards on the spreadsheet. We had our L10s then in Docs, or our own document kind of solution editor within Teamwork in the day. They never really synchronized. So it was very tedious to pull. You had to copy and paste data from one spreadsheet into the other doc where we were in the L10. Our VTOs were on a beautiful slide deck, but it was just hidden away. It wasn't really accessible or visible to people, right? So they might have looked at it at the state of the company, quarterly kickoff once a quarter, and then forgot about it. So it was never lived. And that's where I think the software really comes in, where you have everything in one place. First of all, you have all users, giving them the right visibility if you want to give them visibility into the VTL, accountability chart, etc. And then have the standard structure of running an L10. The way we do interpret the software is it should just be there to augment you. Like if you think about the L10, the structure, first couple of sections, really just speed reporting, right? Is it on track? Is it off track? Let's drop it down if we want to talk about it in the issues list. So there's little things like a one-click drop it down icon that just, you have the data in front of you. It's the scorecard is green or red. If it's on track, off track, it's just in your face, like what's going on in your business. And you can decide then, what are you going to do about it in your issues? Add to-dos from there. People get prompted to actually do their to-dos. The to-dos sync into a Monday or a ClickUp, right, where the work actually happens and synchronizes back once the work is done. So it's ready for your to-do review in your next L10. So all these automations, these steps that you would have to do manually if you're on a spreadsheet, that's just taken away. So the software is really there to help you standardize the process, roll it out across the team, and run an effective L10 and beyond.
And I think as a visionary, I think it's also, if you're struggling to let go a wee bit, it's sort of almost like if you can see all this stuff, sometimes you can actually let go because you kind of go, oh, look, it's under control. I can see what's going on. It also means we sometimes go in there and dabble and want to kind of go, oh, well, what's going on in this department? But I think it can give you some real visibility about what's going on across the whole organization without having to be a micromanager.
Just to add to the vibe coding thing, Deborah, like, so I think you can knock something up, your accountability chart or whatever, pretty quickly, and it's okay, right? But good software, like really good software, really takes time. Like the amount of effort we put into polishing the UI, simplifying it, adding functionality for that one day that you need it at this random time. You need this one feature that's in our drop-down menu, or like even with AI, even with the pace we can move, like it still takes so much effort and engineering to do, say, the process component that I built. Like it's just an incredible amount of work. So like, I don't think it's realistic that you could vibe code something to the level that a professional software company can do. And it'll always be mediocre and then it'll fall apart after a while if no one's maintaining it.
And you can get probably the 5 foundational tools to work reasonably effectively. But as we know, EOS is more than just those 5 foundational tools. And so, yeah, all that other stuff being built in is fantastic as well. Okay. I'm assuming you run your own business on it.
100%. Of course.
Please say that.
Yeah, of course. And we dog food our own stuff. And we actually use their products, with a real critical eye going, like, oh, this was frustrating in this meeting. How could we have made this better? Or actually, if we added this tag to this issue to show that it came from a rock, our software is so much better. So yeah, we're our own biggest critics.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question because it's actually really relevant to me. I hope the listeners don't mind, but I do work with a couple of software development companies and they use EOS and they struggle with the whole agile methodology and how it fits in with EOS. And they always say, it's not going to work for us because we're agile and we do agile. And it's like, yeah, but that's the way you do your coding. That's not the way you run your business. And so we have these conversations. So I'm not an expert in that. I did have a software company many, many years ago, but I haven't been involved in it for a long, long time. How would you help me answer that question? So we can't do EOS because it doesn't work with our agile development.
Yeah. Am I allowed curse on this podcast?
Oh, absolutely.
Or I would say that's bullshit.
Oh, is that all you're going to say? But I say fuck, so it's all good.
I'm a professional software developer. I've been doing code since I was 10 years old, right? And I know exactly what they're talking about, but they're two separate sides of the coin, right? One thing is getting the software product built and absolutely do whatever waterfall, whatever Scrum, whatever crazy thing, flavor of the week you have there. It's a totally separate thing. That's the day-to-day getting stuff done in the business. I think EOS is this higher abstract layer on top of that, which is, the rocks. What are we doing for the quarter? Are we going to achieve our vision? Holding everyone aligned around the same thing. It's a completely separate thing. So I think it's a bit of a cop-out when the software team says, no, this isn't for us because we do this software thing over here. You're still a business. You still have customers. You still have challenges. You still have problems. You still have a target. You still have an ambition. You still have accountabilities that you want to hold people to. You still have metrics that you need to track. All of this. You still need to have a weekly meeting at the same time that's actually effective, and so on and on and on and on. So yes, it's nonsense.
And that was, Deborah, that was the biggest pushback I got at Teamwork when we started rolling out EOS beyond the leadership team. The management layer was effective. They got, the benefit of it. But then we had exactly that. I remember on our CRM team, Adam, the team lead for the CRM team, he was the biggest kind of rejecter of EOS within the business, I would say, for months, right? The way we turned him around was really showing, like, I asked him, well, how do you define a good week on your team? What are you tracking at the moment? How do you make sure people actually get their stuff done? And instead of looking at just output, right? A sprint cycle, like a new feature developed or something, right? Are you actually looking at how does this software impact customers? Are you looking at metrics improving, for example, certain adoption, certain usage, certain revenue even, right? Ultimately, are those outcome numbers actually something you could track towards and you could make rocks for you and your team instead of output, right? Which you're obviously producing when you're doing those sprints. So he was the one in the end that came to me after it all clicked, right? He was like, I think I finally got it. He came into my office one day and he drew up like the scorecard actually for his team. It was like, this is what I'm thinking we should be tracking. I get the rocks now. Like we have a 1-year plan here. This is the accountability chart, like it really, really clicked towards the end. And he became a massive promoter of EOS within the business with other dev teams actually. But it's really, as Peter said, like that distinction between what's happening on the ground, working in the business and working on your business, and working on your team. I think that's where EOS is super powerful.
So you reminded me there, Philip, something that we struggled with, even on the leadership team, but especially on other teams, is the word issues. So in the L10 meetings, like, if we were reinventing EOS, I would beg for us to call it something other than issues, topics, whatever, because people really get hung up and they're like, I don't have an issue on my team. We have no issues. We just have stuff we need to get done. But teaching them that it's far more than just problems. It's like anything that's going to make this team gel together, help them achieve better things, go faster, can be topics conversation. Because we've all seen that. We've seen the marketing team whose meeting is over in 22 minutes. They basically do the segue, say hello to each other, and head away again, right?
And it's right. It is one of the things I've always kind of struggled with as well. I have to really explain that it's not just issues, it's opportunities. It's anything that can actually make the boat go faster. It's yeah, all that stuff. But yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's one of those. It is what it is. It is issues. That's what we're going to deal with. But I think once they get it, they understand it. Yeah. Okay. What was the biggest thing that EOS did in your original business? Do you think what would be the one thing that you'd say that was the biggest win, I suppose, in terms of implementing EOS in your business?
I think we'll probably have different answers to this, Philip, right? So like you'll be more operational, but like just I remember being a CEO of the company and being heads down in code all the time. Staff kept asking me about vision. What's our vision for the company? Yeah, but where are we going? We're doing well, but where are we going? What's the plan? And I'm like, just make software and make money. Like, what's the problem here, right? I was even like, in my head, I probably had it, but I'd never really put it on paper, right? So I think that was one big win, is forcing us as a leadership team to come together and actually talk about this. Like, where do we want to go in 10 years? What does good look like, and setting a big, hairy, audacious, hard goal, right? That we all aligned on. That was a huge win, but then also being able to share that to the company. So I'd say from my seat, that was probably one of the biggest things. I'm sure Phil will have more operational stuff.
I'm going to come to Philip in a moment because I'm just going to ask you a quick question around that, Peter. So how did that then develop into the way that you developed the vision component within the software? Because I'm guessing if that was the thing that you saw being the most valuable, how did you translate that into what you could do with the software?
Well, I suppose it allowed us to really see the power of the VTO, right? It's easy to look at the VTO and just be like, yeah, it's a 2-page sheet, doesn't really mean anything, right? But living it, us really living EOS and locking the leadership team away and thinking about this and thinking about how you roll this out to the team and how you explain it in a 2-sheet and, the 10-year target and turning it into a 3-year picture and a 1-year plan. I love that language. It even gives us that language that we can use. So I suppose when we built the software, we just wanted to make it everything we ever wanted it to be, right? Things that confused us in other products, to simplify that, to allow you easily enhance your version and keep that version history and all that, because your ambitions change. Your 10-year target might rarely change, but your 3-year picture is going to definitely change. Your 1-year picture needs to be fairly solid, but building flexibility into the tool. I suppose the fact that we had actually lived the life properly for years, we knew exactly how the tool should work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I know that because we talked about this before we jumped on the podcast, even just things like being able to.
We also wanted to be able to print
I was
beautifully.
going to say, that's what I was going to go to. I was going to say, we talked about the printing. Yeah. So the printing has always been like a bit of a bone of contention in terms of, as I said to you, I actually have a Word document that I get the team to fill in and then we can print it out. I actually print it out and laminate it. I'm a bit of an old school girl and I have it on the wall as well. But I do like it to be pretty because then it just makes it sort of feel like something I want to carry around and feel proud of. And I know your software does print it in a way that you can just go with it.
It was an issue in our L10's meeting. We were like, printing is always going to be this huge thing, right? Why don't we actually build a print engine? So we actually did the engineering effort, like a good bit of effort, like a 2-month project to build a print engine. So now we can produce beautiful PDFs in every last part of our product. So yeah, definitely informed.
Beautiful. Okay, Philip, what about yourself then? Was the biggest thing that EOS did for the business for you, and how did that influence the way you developed this software?
Yeah, I think I would have actually aligned to what Peter said around the alignment, really aligning a company on the vision that we lacked before. But for me, what it did was it really, really brought out accountability. So before we introduced EOS, we were super successful. The business was growing in 2017, was growing 40 or 50% revenue year on year at $50 million in annual recurring revenue. So we just didn't know why, right? We were kind of flying blind. So it brought in accountability around the weekly metrics, obviously, putting proper measurables, KPIs in place that told us the business was doing well. And then rocks as well, like really holding people accountable to what they say they were going to do in a quarter, they would get it done. Now, what happened was we had somebody on the leadership team who was very much underwater, and EOS really teased that out. We could see that we had the right person in the wrong seat. And I think, Peter, you had that feeling for a long time, right? But you couldn't really name it. And EOS gave us that tool, right? Where we could clearly see, definitely exhibiting our values with the company for since the very beginning, I guess. But it was really underwater. And Peter, you can complete that story. But once you had that conversation, right, things changed. Yeah.
You just don't, I love the people analyzer tool as well, but related, like it helps you realize where the gaps in the business are, and we had a situation where we had a best friend who the company had slightly outgrown on the role, and we had to do something about it, right? But it gave us the confidence and the tools and the ability to look at the big picture and see that. Sometimes when you're in the day to day, you can't see the wood from the trees, right? So I think EOS has been super powerful around that. So yeah, so we finally did something, and great things happened.
Awesome. I love that. I was just thinking, I love the people analyzer too, because I just think that takes away all the emotion. I think sometimes the emotion. I know what my question was. You talked about, so accountability. So I always sort of say that you cannot force accountability from anybody. You can only give them the tools to step up and take accountability. And that's what EOS actually does. But, if we're talking about APIs, I've always been a bit of a proponent for having people physically put a number in because they have to own the number. And it does, when you have to, because I do 3 level 10 meetings every Monday with my 3 businesses. And when I have to physically put my number in and kind of go, damn it, I haven't done what I'm supposed to do. It does make you feel a little bit like, oh, I'm going to have to explain this, which is a good thing. So with APIs, how do we get around that? How do we still ensure there is that ownership and that, that actually belongs to me?
There's no magic bullet to that, I suppose. Like just because a number automatically updates on the scorecard every week isn't an excuse for you to kind of not feel that you own that number. So I think it's down to the human. There is no magic answer for that. It's kind of similar to you people using AI to augment their jobs, right? Like you still have to do the thinking. The AI can't do all the thinking. It can't do your job for you. It can help. So like if I had a member of my leadership team who owned the number on the scorecard and was just letting it be populated and didn't really understand it, and we didn't really feel cared about that number, that would be a problem for me. Absolutely. But that's just good management, I think.
Follow the process, right?
Exactly. Follow the process. I mean, if the number is red, and for a couple of weeks in a row, even, then it's obvious there's something going on. And even if you synchronize it through the API, I'm with you, Deborah. Call me old fashioned, even with the age of AI and the software that we're building. You can automate all this stuff, but I think there's definitely something to be said to intentionally pull that number somewhere and drop it into your scorecard every single week, because you're going to understand it, right? But again, if it's flashing red, the team obviously needs to tease out and dig in what's going on here, make it an issue. And so, yeah, the software definitely helps in that regard.
What I've seen is, there's a number that you like, it's always not quite hitting it, but then we kind of sometimes discuss it. Sometimes we can't be discussing it all the time. We have this feature now in our product that we added a few months ago called Insights, and it's got an AI part in it where the AI just analyzes all your data and suggests problems and trends and good things as well in your business. But there's nowhere to hide really, right? The AI is going to point out, hey, you've missed your weekly sales number like 9 times out of 12 this quarter. I think you've got an issue here and you should bloody address it. and it's there too in red on the dashboard, right? So I think it's actually a beautiful thing for the AI to help the business with its thinking as well.
And going back to a little bit what Philip said, you've got to let you've still got to do the thinking. Even, I mean, we use AI a lot in our business, and it's wonderful, but it's shit in, shit out. You've got to do the thinking, you've got to use it, and you've got to do the training. And I've been a bit passionate about this, a bit vocal about this in the last few weeks as well, in terms of, it is it is like it's like a graduate from university. They have got all the knowledge that they absolutely need, but they have zero experience. And if you don't take the time to train them, to explain what you need in terms of outcomes, to actually show them the context, get them to understand why it's important, then they might be the smartest university student that there was, but it doesn't mean they're going to be good at doing the job.
100%.
And yours is being trained across, I'm guessing, multiple companies, right? So it's actually looking at all of the, not with that, not obviously not sharing the data, but picking up on where trends and issues and things actually come, so that insights built in across all the different companies.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I love the SWOT analysis when it does it, when we show it to customers, because it crunches on all the data in your company, the rocks, the VTO, your tracks, your trends. It looks at everything, stuff that it would take a human so much time to pour over, right? It looks at all of that in seconds, and it comes back with some beautiful stuff. I remember showing it to a customer recently, and it's one of the weaknesses was team morale on a particular team, and they were like, "Oh my god, that is 100% a weakness, and we never, yeah, how did it know?" I'm like, "I have no idea, dude. It's just looking at your data." It's super powerful to force them to kind of like think about things critically. That humans we're not perfect, right? We're not going to see everything, and I think leaning on the strengths of AI, but not relying on it to replace our thinking. I think that's the critical thing we're trying to get across, to augment your thinking. And you can't avoid AI. AI is coming for every job, every role. Every business has to evolve, and we're trying to make that easy for people.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit. So I know you've got some new, so you've got the insights, obviously. You've got some other sort of nice little things being built into it. Tell me a little bit about that, because I'm really interested in AI.
I think that actually since we last showed you the platform, Deborah, we've added so much. So the insights, we built beautiful dashboards. They're super fast. They're real time apps, incredible rich data on everything that's going on in your business and every team. If you're an integrator, you're gonna like when we sell teamwork. If you're an integrator, we just show you insights, and they're like sold. It's beautiful. It's also got some automatic AI insights on those dashboards as well. But beyond that, throughout the product, we're gone all in AI. So if I just go from the high level, right, we allow you connect your AI, connect your success code, all your data to any of the popular AIs out there, such as ChatGPT or Claude. And then it's incredible. You're only limited by your imagination. Like, all we're doing is making the data available to the best AI agents in the world. Now you can make them real thinking partners. You can ask for insights in your business. You can generate reports. You can talk about 10-year plans. You can look at things critically. You can have a conversation. You can plan out a better way to do your website, anything, stuff we can't even imagine. You can also use your voice. You can be in the car and you could create an issue. You could ask about your issues. I really love that as well when I'm driving. But then we've all this in-product AI. So if I go from the top, we have it can suggest measurables, it can suggest issues, it can review your rocks, it can suggest rocks. With reviewing your rocks and to-dos, by the way, specific, smart, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. We can't know about the attainable, realistic, and timely, but we can definitely tell you if your rocks and your to-dos look specific and measurable. So what we do is we give you a score for every 1 out of 10 on how well you're doing at describing this rock. So for example, if you say call Bob tomorrow, it's going to give you a 2 out of 10. If you say call Bob about sales process in Oregon before Tuesday, it'll probably give you a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Very specific and measurable. I love it. Yeah.
And then it can write draft processes for you as well, right? So we're all in
I
AI
know.
is the
Good.
key.
I have a question though. So I need to ask something, because I'm really, because as you know, I've got AI on my accountability chart in my business, and I have different AIs. Different AIs have got different roles, and we had this conversation about how they're pushing back on me about what their roles are and aren't. But will this mean that my Claude, who's called Ellie, and my DBT, who's called D2, will they be able to attend level 10 meetings and be held accountable to a scorecard and get given to dos, and really be a person within the success platform?
Oh, wow. We're not there yet, but I love your thinking. The next evolution of what we're adding at the moment is that instead of having to go to Claude or ChatGPT, we have that functionality just built within our product and chat panel. Once we've that done, I think the next kind of obvious thing we're looking at is having an AI assistant be able to join your weekly meeting and more to track to transcribe everything, to assign notes automatically, capture any to-dos you've missed, and to give you feedback possibly on your own behavior within the meeting, right? So maybe you were too forceful. Maybe the segue took 20 minutes when it should have taken 5 minutes, So kind of give level feedback, but also give personal level feedback as well. Especially if we add in the Colby A index where we know your general traits and the way you're inclined to work, right? I think it'd be super interesting to say to AI, hey, this is my personality. Let me know when I'm, overstepping the bounds or how it could show up better. I think that coaching aspect could be really cool.
And I'm thinking of agentic AI, so I'm thinking because my Claude is, you could literally have it if it owns a process in the process component, and if it owns the outcomes in the scorecard and the measurables, and it knows exactly what its sort of role is. In theory, it could attend the level 10 meetings, and it could actually just be running a lot of this stuff in the background without any input. That's where I'm headed. Anyway, we shall see. Yeah, it would be pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. What else do we need to know? I mean, like, I guess the people was going, oh my God, these sort of techie geeks. So this is what are they going on about? Maybe there are some people out there who are still using spreadsheets. Maybe one of my most successful teams in the early days were not tech savvy at all. They're actually a food manufacturing company, a small kind of chefing company. And they actually used to print out a spreadsheet that was blank, and they would fill it in with a pencil, and they would highlight in pink or green whether it was on track or off track. But I tell you what, it worked because they actually had something that was very, very visual. I have no doubt there are people out there using all kinds of stuff out there. The biggest reason to move away from that, what would you say it is? Biggest benefit?
Time. To me, it's time. It's just copying, pasting, updating, right? Holding people accountable to do the things that you want them to do. All that stuff is I think, the automation that you can have in a software, that is the biggest benefit, and it'll save you time.
Yeah. I think it's impractical as well. I mean, how are you going to do something like an accountability chart on spreadsheets or manually offline? It's just too difficult, right? And humans, we're visual creatures. Like, we like to see things visually. An accountability chart makes sense. And be able to move things around and plan the future version of it and double click to change roles and stuff. It's very hard to do that in other formats. The other thing I would say though is, like, no amount of technology will, to your point there with that company that was running offline really well. I've seen companies with all the technology in the world that are running terribly, right? So at the end of the day, there has to be that self accountability on the team, and no tool will magically fix that. Our goal is to make it as easy as possible though, so that the tools don't get in your way, so that you're not trying to fight the interface. We have a philosophy of don't make me think. Everything in our product should be straightforward and easy and obvious. And if I'm honest, in other products, I see things that I'm like, this is very confusing. And they're making the users learn the product. Whereas our goal is that the product just works for you automatically, so that you frees up your time to actually work on your business.
I did ask Philip at the beginning, I'd love to leave the listeners with, 3 top tips or tools, because I think it's really important. We can have a beautiful conversation, like a level 10 meeting, right? A beautiful discussion, but there's no action from it. It was just a beautiful discussion, and maybe not even a beautiful discussion. So what are your 3 top tips or tools, Philip?
Yeah, I think the first one that we learned over the 9 years, having been in the EOS community, adopted EOS in 2017, is one, trust the process. Use the language, right? Really lean into the EOS process. There is a tool for every problem, every kind of hitting the ceiling challenge that you might face, right, along the way. The second one is, we're passionate about tech and AI. AI is definitely coming into, everywhere. So, but I do strongly believe that it's not the companies that will succeed with AI, right, and leverage the most aren't the ones with the fanciest tools or the biggest budgets. I think it's the ones that start now with something small, like even for personal use, right? Look at the processes that you're doing repeatedly, little reports or something, or, like we do, obviously, monthly reporting. Can you automate this? How much time does it currently take? Do you have the data available that you could give to the AI? Do you have the process documented step by step that you can actually teach the AI on, and see what happens, right? Just let it run in, and you might save an hour here or there or 30 minutes. It might take you 3 hours to set it up, but start now, experiment with it, learn with it, share the learning, and grow together as a team, because this is not gone away. And then the last one is, I'm passionate about Claude, like big tools, that are out there. I fell in love with Claude. Used ChatGPT before. It's just, I don't know, it feels nicer. It does the things that I want it to do. I feel like it understands me better. And if you haven't looked at Success or any EOS software, right, yet, take a peek at it. Everyone has a 30-day trial usually where you can test it out. So we'd love for you to take a look and check us out, but also, what else is out there to make sure it fits your business and helps you just run your business and focusing on your business better.
And our free plan as well gives you the scorecard and the VTO and the accountability chart completely for free. So, get in there and give it a go.
Give it a play. Absolutely. Okay. So success.co is where you'll find it. As you said, it's in multiple languages, multiple currencies. Great little product. I was just looking earlier. I mean, I have the app on my phone because I'm the kind of visionary that kind of wakes up in the middle of the night and kind of goes, I need to put that into my issues list. And so my poor assistant often gets, lots of issues coming throughout the week, but it is good to have that stuff there. I love the idea of talking to it. I use Whisperflow all the time because I can't type to save my life. I'm 55 years old, and when I was at school, typing was for people who want to be secretaries. I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to be a secretary. I'm not going to learn to type. And now I really wish that I had. So talking is good. I love it. Any last parting words, Peter?
Oh, look, we're super passionate about EOS. We're super passionate about software. We're trying to build the best platform in the world. All we do is EOS. We're not going to try and do 100 different things and be jack of all trades. We'd love for you to come on and check our product, and we won't let you down. That's it.
For me, this was fun. Really enjoyed it, Debra. I think, kind of nostalgic memories from the teamwork time where we introduced the EOS just came out here. But I think for me, it's if people do want to continue conversation, right? We're on LinkedIn, we're on our website, etc. Like, feel free to reach out. If it's just a conversation around how did you actually introduce EOS, as a tech company as well, how do I get my developers to adopt this alongside like the agile methodologies, etc. More than happy to share learning, and there's some content around that we do have as well. So we love these chats. We geek out on it occasionally, and as Peter said at the beginning, it's not all about the money for us. Like, we want to have fun doing this as well. So, and it is very much fun right now. So,
and I can hand on heart say, from my own personal experience, I've reached out to you guys several times with issues and things, and with some of my clients' requests, and I know that you've always been available. Sometimes I do wonder if you sleep, but you have always been available, and I know how friendly and how helpful you are, and I can feel the passion without a doubt. So yeah, thank you for that offer.
Lovely.
Thanks so much, Debra.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.